The sun sets gently over the Yamuna River, casting a warm golden glow across the gardens and marble pathways. Even centuries later, the Taj Mahal seems alive, its arches and domes whispering tales of a love that refused to fade. Shah Jahan walks slowly through the gardens, his gaze lingering on the reflection pools. In every ripple, he imagines Mumtaz smiling, her laughter flowing like a soft melody across the water. Memory carries him back to the moments they shared, the quiet conversations beneath moonlit skies, the gentle touch of her hand as they strolled among flowers, and the unspoken promises that bound their hearts together. Even in absence, Mumtaz's presence is vivid, her spirit weaving through the petals, fountains, and arches, a living echo of devotion that fills every corner of the monument. Visitors pause unknowingly near these gardens, feeling a warmth, a presence they cannot see. The Taj stands as a bridge between hearts, carrying whispers of love, longing, and eternal devotion across time. Shah Jahan imagines her beside him now, her eyes reflecting the glow of lanterns, her smile lighting even the quietest corners of the marble halls. And in that imagined embrace, the monument itself seems to sigh in fulfillment, every stone and petal echoing a single, eternal truth. Love endures, devotion lives, and hearts remember forever. Morning light spills softly across the gardens, touching carved petals, fountains, and reflection pools. Visitors arrive, their footsteps hushed on marble pathways, drawn not only to the beauty of the monument, but to the whispers of love that seem to linger in the air. A young couple pauses at a fountain, their fingers brushing as they gaze into the rippling water. Somehow, they feel the presence of Shah Jahan and Mumtaz, a story of devotion that transcends centuries, teaching them about patience, care, and the quiet strength of love. An artist sketches the arches and domes, yet unknowingly captures the warmth and spirit of the eternal lovers. A traveler from far away touches a carved flower, feeling the dedication of artisans and the depth of the emperor's longing. Each visitor carries a piece of the Taj home in their hearts, telling the story of love in their own way. Through whispered memories, sketches, photographs, or silent awe, the river flows gently nearby, mirroring the Taj and all who pause to admire it. Lanterns along garden paths sway in a soft breeze, casting golden reflections across marble and water. Shah Jahan imagines Mumtaz walking with each visitor, her laughter blending with theirs, her spirit illuminating the monument. Even centuries later, their devotion continues to inspire, touching hearts far beyond the walls of marble and gardens. And as the sun rises higher, the Taj seems to breathe alongside the visitors, its arches and petals carrying countless stories of love that endures, devotion that never fades, and hearts that remember forever. A gentle wind flows through the Taj gardens, stirring flowers and lifting the delicate petals of marble carvings. Each petal seems alive, trembling softly as if sharing a secret, carrying whispers of Shah Jahan and Mumtaz's eternal love. Visitors pause, mesmerized by petals dancing in the breeze, or floating in reflection pools and fountains. Some bend to pick up a fallen blossom, feeling a warmth, a presence, that cannot be seen but only felt. The gardens are alive with subtle songs. The rustle of leaves, the trickle of fountains, the whisper of petals swirling gently in the wind. Each element seems to repeat the same story. Love endures, devotion never fades, memory lives forever. The river nearby mirrors the sky and gardens, its surface trembling as petals fall upon it. Moonlight and sunlight alike illuminate the floating flowers, turning the wind into a living messenger, carrying devotion across time and space. Shah Jahan imagines Mumtaz walking through the gardens, her laughter mingling with the rustling petals. Even centuries later, each visitor feels her presence, as if the wind itself brings messages from a heart eternal. Lanterns sway gently along marble pathways, casting golden light upon ripples in pools. Every petal caught in the breeze, every reflection in water, every subtle shimmer in the gardens becomes a story, a living testament to love, devotion, and memory. And as the wind carries petals into the sky, the Taj whispers softly through gardens and rivers. Hearts remember, love endures, and devotion flows like the wind. The moon rises slowly over the Taj gardens, casting silver light across the marble pathways, domes, and reflection pools. Shadows stretch gracefully across carved petals, arches, and fountains, while the river glimmers quietly under the celestial glow. Shah Jahan strolls along the marble corridors in memory, his footsteps silent yet heavy with longing. He imagines Mumtaz walking beside him, her presence glowing softly in the moonlight, her laughter mingling with the ripple of fountains. In this imagined conversation, they speak of moments shared under sunlit skies, of whispered promises beneath the moon, and of a love that no time, distance, or absence could ever diminish. Visitors pass quietly through the gardens, unaware of the spectral dialogue flowing among petals and pools. Yet some pause, sensing an indescribable warmth, an invisible conversation carried on the night breeze, a dialogue that transcends centuries. Lanterns sway faintly along the marble paths, casting golden trails onto the reflective surfaces of fountains. The river mirrors moonlight and marble alike, capturing fragments of laughter, whispers, and devotion, creating a symphony of love that is both present and eternal. Shah Jahan's memory lingers in every carved petal. Mumtaz's spirit flows through every ripple in the water, even long after their earthly presence has passed. Their moonlit conversations echo in the hearts of visitors, reminding all who pause to listen. Love speaks, devotion endures, and memory never fades. The sun dips low, painting the marble and gardens with warm, amber light. Fountains shimmer, pools mirror the domes and arches, and the river flows gently, carrying reflections far beyond the banks. Visitors pause along pathways, drawn not just to beauty, but to the subtle presence of longing etched into every stone. Some trace carved petals with their fingers. Others gaze into pools, lost in reflections of their own hearts. Shah Jahan walks in memory, his thoughts filled with Mumtaz, her smile, her laughter, and the unspoken promises they shared under sun and moon. The marble seems to respond to these emotions, catching the light and ripples in a way that transforms stone into feeling. The gardens themselves seem alive with desire. Flowers leaning toward sunlight, petals fluttering in the breeze, and fountains dancing in a rhythm that mirrors the heartbeat of love. Even centuries later, those who visit sense a warmth, a pulse of devotion and longing that flows like water across time. Lanterns sway along pathways, casting golden glows onto marble floors and pools. Shadows dance with light, reflecting the invisible dialogue of hearts. And the river mirrors the same eternal yearning that Shah Jahan carried for Mumtaz. And in that quiet, golden hour, the Taj whispers softly to every visitor. Desire is eternal, devotion endures, and love transcends time. Every reflection, every ripple, every swaying petal becomes a testament to hearts that longed, loved, and remembered, ensuring that the story of Shah Jahan and Mumtaz continues to inspire across generations. The Yamuna glides silently, reflecting the domes, minarets, and arches of the Taj Mahal. Its waters ripple gently in the soft evening light, catching golden reflections from lanterns and the last rays of sunset. Every visitor who gazes into the river feels something unspoken. The memory of Shah Jahan's love for Mumtaz, the devotion of artisans who carved marble with care, and the countless hearts that have paused here, inspired by devotion across centuries. Petals float softly along the surface of the river, carrying whispers of laughter, longing, and promise. Fountains from the garden spill into pools, mingling with the flowing waters, creating a symphony of reflection, memory, and devotion. The river has witnessed centuries of human emotion. Lovers who walked along its banks, artists who captured its beauty, travelers who marveled silently at the monument, all touched by the same invisible thread of eternal love. Moonlight rises higher, silver spilling over the water. Shah Jahan imagines Mumtaz beside him, her presence shimmering in every ripple. Even when unseen, her spirit flows with the current, reminding all who pause that love leaves its mark in subtle ways. The river moves slowly, carrying devotion downstream, spreading the whispers of the Taj far beyond its marble walls. And as night deepens, the water seems to murmur. Love travels, memory endures, and hearts carry devotion across time. The Taj Mahal stands unchanged, its marble gleaming under the morning sun. Yet the world around it has evolved. Planes soar overhead, tourists with cameras stroll the gardens, and stories of love reach far beyond the banks of the Yamuna. Modern visitors feel an inexplicable connection. A couple from a distant city pauses by a fountain, their hands brushing lightly, feeling the invisible presence of Shah Jahan and Mumtaz, echoing across centuries. Artists capture sketches, photographers frame reflections, and writers imagine the whispers of the past mingling with the present. Even in the chaos of modern life, The Taj reminds all who visit of devotion, patience, and enduring love. A young child releases a paper boat into the river, watching it float along the shimmering waters. Somehow, the child feels the story of love, the silent promise of hearts bound across time, and the whisper that love, once true, never fades. Lanterns sway along pathways in the evening, and fountains ripple with the rhythm of memory. Every visitor carries a piece of the Taj home, a fragment of its devotion woven into their own stories. Shah Jahan's longing, Mumtaz's presence, and the whispers of artisans and lovers past remain alive in the hearts of all who pause, reminding modern eyes that some stories do not age. Some love, some devotion, some memory remains eternal, echoing across time. And as the sun sets behind the distant horizon, the Taj seems to murmur softly to the world. Love lives, devotion transcends, and memory touches every heart that listens. Twilight descends softly over the Taj Mahal, painting the marble with hues of gold, pink, and silver. The gardens hum quietly, fountains ripple with gentle rhythm, and the river carries whispers far beyond its banks. Visitors of all ages walk the pathways, some in awe, some in contemplation, all sensing a presence that transcends time. Each reflection in the pools, each glow from a lantern, each floating petal, seems to tell a story of hearts united long ago, yet alive in every soul today. Shah Jahan's devotion to Mumtaz remains vivid, his longing and care echoing in every carved arch and petal. Mumtaz's spirit, gentle and luminous, weaves through the marble, the gardens, and the water, reaching each visitor with a quiet warmth. Artists sketch the arches, poets write verses inspired by love, and children play, unaware yet enchanted by the energy of devotion. Even centuries later, the essence of their bond teaches the world about patience, loyalty, and the beauty of true love. The wind carries petals across gardens and pathways. The river mirrors the skies, and the Taj stands as both a monument and a living poem. Every heartbeat in the gardens, every whispered story, becomes a continuation of their love, an eternal rhythm that flows across centuries. And as the moon rises, silver and serene, Shah Jahan and Mumtaz's love seems to glow, not only in marble and gardens, but in every heart that listens, every soul that pauses, every spirit that remembers. Love endures, memory survives, devotion transcends, and hearts remain forever intertwined. A soft breeze flows through an enchanted garden, lifting petals from the marble fountains and scattering them across the pathways. Shah Jahan walks slowly, his heart heavy with memories, yet glowing with the warmth of Mumtaz's eternal presence. In this sacred twilight, he imagines her beside him, her hand gently brushing his, her laughter like wind chimes across the still waters of the reflection pools. Every carved petal, every ripple in the fountains, echoes the devotion they shared, now immortalized in stone and memory. Visitors walk quietly, sensing something unseen yet deeply felt. A young couple pauses, clasping hands. Their eyes reflecting a story older than centuries. One that whispers, love endures beyond time, beyond life itself. Shah Jahan feels Mumtaz in every flower swaying in the wind, in every flicker of golden light from lanterns, and in the gentle murmur of the river that flows silently nearby. Even absent in flesh, her spirit wraps around him, and around all who pause to remember, teaching that devotion is eternal, and true love leaves an indelible mark on the world. The garden glows in soft twilight, as petals drift lazily through the air. Shah Jahan stands still, closing his eyes, allowing the whispers of immortality to fill him, knowing that love is not measured in years, but in the eternity it inspires in every heart it touches. Morning light filters softly through the flowering trees, casting dappled patterns on marble pathways. Petals drift gently in the breeze, and fountains ripple quietly, each movement echoing the devotion that created this sanctuary of love. Shah Jahan imagines Mumtaz walking beside him, her presence luminous, radiant, yet intangible. He recalls whispered promises and shared laughter that now linger in the air like invisible threads, connecting every visitor to a love that transcends time. Couples walk hand in hand, feeling the warmth of a story older than centuries. Artists sketch the arches and pools, but somehow capture more, the aura of devotion, the quiet longing, and the tender bond that endures. Children release floating petals into the fountains, watching them drift slowly across the water's surface. Even they, too young to understand fully, sense a profound love that guides every motion, every ripple. Shah Jahan envisions Mumtaz smiling at each visitor, her laughter mingling with the wind, her gaze inspiring devotion, hope, and tenderness. The gardens, fountains, petals, and light themselves become carriers of this timeless story, ensuring that love is not forgotten, but renewed with each generation that pauses to feel it. And as the sun rises higher, golden light touches marble and water, casting reflections that merge the past and present, reminding all who wander here that true love is eternal, inspiring hearts across every age. The afternoon sun glows softly, glinting off marble domes and carved petals. Shah Jahan walks slowly through the gardens, his eyes tracing each intricate design, each flower delicately sculpted by hands that carried devotion in every stroke. He remembers Mumtaz's gentle laughter, her gaze like sunlight warming his heart. Though centuries separate their earthly presence, he feels her spirit in every petal, every ripple, every glimmer of light that dances across the fountains. Visitors wander quietly, tracing paths between fountains, reflection pools, and arches. Some sketch, some photograph, some simply pause in awe. Unseen, Shah Jahan and Mumtaz's ethereal forms move among them, their love subtly touching each soul with warmth and longing. Petals drift from marble carvings into fountains, carrying whispers of devotion through ripples of water. The wind sways the trees, scattering light across the pathways, And every reflection in pools and rivers seems to carry their bond forward, connecting past, present, and future in a single thread of love. Shah Jahan pauses beside a fountain, imagining Mumtaz's hand in his, her laughter mingling with the soft music of falling water. Even absent in flesh, her presence fills the garden, reminding him and all who pause here that love, once true, is never truly lost. And as sunlight fades into soft evening glow, the Taj Gardens breathe with the story of devotion, echoing the timeless truth. Love carved in time endures forever. Its whispers carried in petals, fountains, and reflections across generations. Night falls gently upon the white marble, turning its surface silver beneath the soft moonlight. The air is still, except for the faint rustle of petals that drift from the gardens into the Yamuna River, petals the color of memory and longing. Once, Shah Jahan had gathered real petals, roses, jasmines, and lilies, to adorn Mumtaz's resting place. Now, centuries later, they are but echoes, yet they still fall. Each petal, as if born from stone, carries a shimmer of promise, the promise he made to her, that their love would outlast time. The moon glides across the sky, spilling its light into the reflecting pool. There, two shadows appear, Shah Jahan and Mumtaz, luminous and transparent, standing hand in hand. They do not speak, for their words have turned into petals. Their voices now the soft hum of the night breeze. Their promises carried downstream toward forever. Shah Jahan looks at her, eyes filled with the ache of both love and eternity. Do you remember, he whispers, the night we spoke of stars that never fade? Mumtaz smiles, her form flickering with light. I remember every night, she says. Every star. Every sigh that built this place. The river listens, the marble listens, the entire earth seems to still itself. Petals swirl across the water's surface, each one glowing faintly as if carrying fragments of their souls. A heron lands near the edge of the pool, its reflection shimmering beside theirs. And for a moment, the world feels balanced, between life and afterlife. Between love and longing, between a promise made and one forever kept. As dawn begins to breathe upon the horizon, the petals settle, forming a soft trail that leads from the mausoleum to the river. And though the night fades, the fragrance of their eternal promise lingers. A love not bound by breath, but sculpted into time itself. The night had grown deep, a hush settled over Agra, soft as silk. The moon climbed high above the domes, its silver gaze brushing every arch, every petal, every whisper that still lingered between stone and sky. Below, the Taj Mahal shimmered not as a monument, but as a memory, breathing, sighing, remembering. Shah Jahan stood by the great marble lattice, looking out at the night. The wind carried the scent of the Yamuna, cool, ancient, and gentle, like the breath of time itself. Mumtaz appeared beside him, her form radiant and transparent, yet her eyes held warmth, the same warmth that had once melted his burdens and calmed his storms. The moon has not changed, Shah Jahan murmured. It shines the same way it did when I first looked into your eyes. Mumtaz smiled softly, her reflection trembling in the marble like ripples in a dream. The moon remembers us, she said. It watched you build this place. It watched me sleep beneath it. It listens even now. And the moon did listen. It poured its light down the veins of the marble, illuminating carvings, vines, lilies, and blooming flowers that seemed to move under its touch. Every curve and petal began to glow faintly, as though awakened by love itself. In that glow, Shah Jahan saw visions of their first meeting in the palace gardens, of laughter among fountains, of the day he placed the first stone of her resting place. The memories drifted like pale smoke, curling through moonlight, surrounding them both in a slow, celestial dance. Mumtaz reached out, her hand a stream of light. When it touched his, the marble beneath their feet pulsed once. And for an instant, both were alive again. Not as flesh and blood, but as feeling, pure, unbroken, eternal. Above them, the moon seemed to bow, its light bending toward their union. Its reflection spreading across every surface until even the shadows were bright. When the night finally began to fade, and the first trace of dawn brushed the eastern sky, the moon lingered a little longer, reluctant to leave, unwilling to end the dream. And though centuries would pass, it would return night after night, to gaze upon the marble hearts that beat forever beneath its glow. The dawn mist drifted low over the Yamuna, its silver tendrils curling through the air like ancient breath. The river was calm, but beneath its surface, there was a hum. A secret melody that only hearts in love could hear. Shah Jahan stood at the river's edge, his reflection blending with the rippling water. While Mumtaz glided beside him, her presence light as a sigh. The marble behind them glowed faintly, its reflection shivering across the current like a dream dissolving into memory. He looked into the water, his voice soft. "Do you hear it, Mumtaz? The river sings." She smiled, nodding. "It always did. Even when I was alive, it whispered your name at night. Now, it carries our story to the villages, the fields, the oceans. And indeed, if one listened closely, the Yamuna murmured not with the sound of mere water, but with verses, fragments of love songs, prayers, and sighs from centuries gone. The river had heard every mason's chant, every craftsman's song, every tear that fell when Shah Jahan stood over her resting place. Now it carried them all. As the sun climbed higher, light scattered on the surface of the river, turning it to molten gold. The reflections of domes and minarets danced, distorted yet beautiful, like memories retold through generations. Children played on the far bank, unaware that the ripples that touched their ankles once carried the whispered words of an emperor and his queen. A fisherman cast his net, and for a moment, he paused, hearing something in the water. A melody soft and ancient. It was the sound of a promise, a love that never died. A song that had outlived centuries of storms and silence. Shah Jahan watched as Mumtaz leaned over the river, her reflection shimmering beside his own. He whispered, "If our love could be seen, it would look like this, flowing, endless." Mumtaz touched the surface with her hand, and the ripples spread outward, carrying their memory into infinity. Above them, white egrets soared across the pale morning sky. The river hummed, the marble sighed, and the earth listened. As the Yamuna, faithful and eternal, sang the secret song of love that time could never drown. Centuries rolled by like drifting clouds. Empires rose and fell, languages changed, cities grew, and the world forgot the hands that carved the marble. But love, that never left. It whispered still, through wind, through water, through eyes that lingered too long upon beauty. In every heart that trembled at the sight of devotion, the echo of Shah Jahan and Mumtaz lived on. The sun was high over Agra that afternoon. Tourists walked through the marble courtyard. Their footsteps soft, their voices hushed by something sacred they could not name. A young artist stood before the central arch, sketching. She looked up, and for the faintest instant, she saw two shimmering forms beside the reflecting pool. Hand in hand, gazing at the marble as though it were alive. The vision faded. But something stayed, a warmth in her chest. A feeling she could not explain. That evening, she painted until her fingers trembled, capturing what she could not describe. Two souls glowing within marble light. In another corner of the world, an old man read poetry to his dying wife. His voice broke as he whispered, "Even when I am gone, I will build you a sky of memories." And outside their window, the moon rose. The same moon that had watched over Agra centuries ago. In Istanbul, a sculptor carved roses from white stone. In Paris, a musician composed a nocturne inspired by a building that feels like love. In Kyoto, a girl folded paper cranes after seeing a picture of the Taj, believing each fold carried a blessing. Each act, each whisper, was an echo, soft but eternal. The kind that moves not through sound, but through feeling. And sometimes, on nights when the moon is clear, and the Yamuna glimmers like silver thread, if one listens closely, they can still hear faint laughter between the arches. A quiet voice saying, "I am here," followed by another that replies, "I never left." Love, once born true, is not confined to time, nor to walls of stone. It travels, transforms, survives, living inside every soul that dares to love as deeply as they did. And thus, the story of Shah Jahan and Mumtaz continues. Not in words, but in echoes through the ages. Night once again covered Agra in a silken hush. The crowds had gone. The lanterns had dimmed. And the marble of the Taj Mahal began to breathe, softly, almost imperceptibly. As though it had a heartbeat. For within its walls, love still lived. Not just as memory, but as presence. The marble whispered to itself of the first stone laid by trembling hands, of the prayers spoken in the dark by builders who believed they were shaping eternity, of the day Shah Jahan stood here, his eyes full of both loss and devotion. The arches remembered laughter. The floors remembered tears. Even the smallest carved petal held an echo of a sigh once exchanged between two souls who had refused to be separated by time. And when the moonlight touched its surface, something stirred deep within. A warmth, a pulse, a faint shimmer that rippled across the domes like a living glow. Shah Jahan's spirit drifted into the main chamber. He knelt before the resting place of Mumtaz. His form translucent, but his love radiant as dawn. "Mumtaz," he whispered. "The world changes, the rivers shift. But the heart, it remembers." Her voice came softly, like wind through silk curtains. "And so does love. Always." For a moment, the chamber filled with light. Not from torches, not from the moon, but from them. Their love illuminated the marble, turning it into something beyond stone, a living heart made of light, reflection, and devotion. Outside, the Yamuna stirred, petals floated upriver instead of down. Even the stars seemed to tremble, as if bowing to a love too vast to measure. The Taj Mahal, in its stillness, was no longer a tomb. It was memory. It was heartbeat. It was proof. 1,000 years from now, when new voices echo through its corridors, they will still feel it, that warmth, that ache, that devotion that defies time. Because love carved so deeply does not fade. It merely changes form, from hands, to hearts, to stone, until it becomes the air itself. And as the first light of dawn kissed the domes once more, a whisper drifted across the courtyard. "I built this not for death, but so love may live forever." The Taj glowed in silence, its heart remembering every word. The night after centuries felt different. The marble of the Taj Mahal shimmered as though the stars themselves had descended upon it. The Yamuna was still, reflecting the domes like a dream too perfect to touch. And within that quiet, two faint figures stirred. Shah Jahan and Mumtaz stood once again, side by side. Their forms woven from moonlight and memory. They had become lighter than mist, freer than thought, no longer bound to the walls or river or even to time. They had become echoes of devotion itself. Mumtaz looked around her, her gaze tender. "So many hearts come here," she whispered. "Some broken, some blooming, all searching." Shah Jahan nodded. "They come not to see marble," he said, "but to feel love, ours, perhaps, but also their own." He extended his hand. A silver ripple moved through the air. And suddenly, the Taj Mahal below them began to fade into mist. And beyond it, the world unfolded, cities glowing like fireflies, oceans breathing under starlight, forests humming with unseen life. They drifted above them all, weightless and luminous. Everywhere they went, love bloomed in small, silent ways. A stranger offering shelter. A mother's lullaby in the dark. A letter never sent but felt all the same. The watchers began to see. Their love was no longer theirs alone. It had become part of the world's pulse. In Paris, they stood invisibly by the Seine as two lovers whispered promises on a bridge. In Kyoto, they hovered among cherry blossoms as a young poet wrote, "Love is a building that breathes." In Cairo, they passed through crowded markets, unseen but smiling, as laughter stitched humanity together. Wherever they drifted, moonlight followed. Wherever they paused, petals fell. And in each of those moments, the world remembered something it had almost forgotten. That love, once pure, once true, never dies. It only changes form, until it becomes the air between two hearts, unseen but always there. As dawn spread across the horizon, Mumtaz rested her head upon Shah Jahan's shoulder. "Do you think they'll remember us?" she asked softly. He smiled. "They already do. Every time someone loves beyond reason, we are there." And so began their new journey. Not as emperor and queen, but as the timeless watchers, guardians of every love that dared to defy time. The moon hung wide and pale above the curve of the earth, its silver light flowing over mountains, rivers, and sleeping cities. From that great height, Shah Jahan and Mumtaz moved slowly, not as ghosts, but as light itself. Everywhere the moon touched, their love followed. They passed over deserts that glowed like molten glass. In the quiet dunes of Arabia, a young traveler looked up and whispered a prayer for the wife he had left behind. The wind carried his words upward, and Mumtaz caught them gently, pressing the sound to her heart. "Even here," she said softly, "love finds its way through distance." Over the Mediterranean, waves gleamed like silk ribbons. On a fishing boat, an old man hummed a song to the stars. He had lost his beloved long ago, but each night he sang to her reflection in the sea. Shah Jahan listened, eyes heavy with recognition. "Every ocean remembers a lover's voice," he murmured. They drifted farther, over forests in Africa where lions slept, over cities shimmering with neon and laughter, over frozen lands where the northern lights danced in quiet reverence. And everywhere, they found the same story told differently. Hands clasped, eyes meeting, a smile exchanged in silence. In Rio, a woman stood by a window writing a letter she would never send. In Delhi, a rickshaw driver whispered his daughter's name like a prayer. In Venice, a violinist played alone under a bridge, his music floating through mist. Each heart glowed faintly, threads of gold weaving through the night. Mumtaz looked down and gasped softly. From above, the world looked like a great tapestry. Billions of lights flickering in rhythm. Each pulse a story of love, longing, and connection. "This," she said, "is our legacy. Not marble, but light." Shah Jahan nodded, his hand finding hers. "The moon reflects it all," he said. "It shines not only on the Taj, but on every place where love breathes." They floated closer to the earth, and the moonlight around them thickened, becoming petals, notes, laughter, and sighs. It drifted through open windows, across oceans, over sleeping faces, carrying their blessing. "May you love as we did. May you never forget." And somewhere, beneath that endless sky, two lovers stood on a balcony, the moonlight falling on their joined hands. For just an instant, they felt something ancient, soft, and familiar. A warmth like memory. They looked up, and swore they saw two figures in the moonlight, smiling down upon them. The moonlight dimmed softly, folding into mist. Through that glowing haze, thousands of paper shapes began to appear. Letters drifting like feathers, floating endlessly through the night air. Each one shimmered faintly with forgotten words. Mumtaz reached out her hand. One letter brushed against her palm, warm as breath. The ink had faded, but she could still read it. A soldier's note from centuries past. My dearest, I do not know if I shall return. But when the stars rise over our garden, know that I am looking too. She closed her eyes. Even the words that never reached their homes, she whispered, still live somewhere between heartbeats. Shah Jahan walked through the drifting letters. Each one opened as he passed, soft murmurs filling the air like sighs. Some were stained by tears, others pressed with petals or sealed with trembling wax. A merchant's wife in Venice, writing to her husband lost at sea. A young woman in Kyoto, sending a haiku to a man she loved only in silence. A mother in Delhi, writing to a son who never read her words. The air was full of half-finished sentences. Like breaths caught between confession and courage. Each letter glowed faintly, an echo of what was once too tender to speak aloud. Mumtaz touched one written on yellowing paper. If I had said it then, would you have stayed? She turned to Shah Jahan. How many hearts carry unsent words, she said softly. He nodded. Too many. And yet, he reached up, catching a letter that shimmered gold. Somehow, the universe keeps them safe. He opened it gently. It was not ancient, not at all. It was from a time yet to come. In clean, modern handwriting, it read, Dear whoever finds this, I just wanted to say that love doesn't vanish. Even if they forget you, even if you are gone. Love keeps walking in the world, finding new hands to hold. Mumtaz's eyes filled with light. Someone from the future wrote this? Shah Jahan smiled. Perhaps time is only another kind of letter, one that always reaches where it's meant to. Around them, the letters began to swirl faster. Not falling now, but rising, as though they were being lifted home. The air turned golden with words. Voices of centuries blending into one long, gentle hymn. We are remembered not by marble, but by the softness we leave behind. And as the last letter disappeared into the heavens, a silence fell, pure, tender, endless. Only the faint rustle of paper remained. Like the turning of a page the universe had been waiting to read. A gentle breeze whispered through the endless night, carrying the scent of jasmine and memory. The swirling letters that once filled the air had now vanished, and in their place stretched a vast, luminous garden, so quiet, it seemed the stars themselves were holding their breath. Mumtaz stepped forward, her silver anklets chiming softly. What is this place? She murmured. Shah Jahan smiled faintly. Perhaps this is what grows where love never dies. The ground beneath them shimmered like moonlit silk. Every flower glowed from within, not with sunlight, but with emotion. A single crimson rose pulsed softly, its petals opening and closing in rhythm with a heartbeat. A white lotus floated mid-air, its glow rippling outward like the sound of laughter. Vines made of translucent gold coiled around marble pillars, each leaf containing a reflection of a moment, a look, a smile, a whispered promise. As they walked deeper, the garden responded. A soft hum filled the air, like a melody only the heart could hear. Each step they took awakened something, a new color, a forgotten scent, a memory blooming into light. Mumtaz bent beside a delicate blue blossom. Inside its petals shimmered an image, the day she first saw Shah Jahan, young and shy, offering her a rose. She smiled, and the flower glowed brighter, as if pleased to be remembered. This garden, Shah Jahan whispered, is born from remembrance. Every emotion the world has ever felt, joy, longing, devotion, it takes root here. They came to a crystal fountain, where the water didn't fall, it floated, rising upward in slow, shimmering spirals. When Mumtaz touched it, the water turned into light, revealing a reflection not of their faces, but of their souls, intertwined golden threads that reached across centuries. Tears welled in her eyes. So even time cannot unravel us. No, Shah Jahan said, taking her hand. Because love was never meant to stay in one lifetime. It travels, through birth, through death, through dreams. It becomes the garden that never stops growing. And then, in the stillness, something miraculous happened. The flowers began to hum, one note, then another, until the whole garden was singing. A song older than the stars, woven from every heartbeat that ever loved. It was neither sad nor joyful, it was simply true. Shah Jahan looked around in wonder. Mumtaz, he whispered, this is our monument. Not marble. Not stone. This garden of light and memory. She smiled. And yet, people still visit that white dome by the river. Yes, he said softly. Because that is where the earth remembers. But this, he gestured around them, this is where the universe does. They stood together, surrounded by eternal bloom. Their hands entwined, their reflections glowing in the fountain's spiral light. And for a brief, infinite moment, the garden stopped breathing. As if even time itself bowed before their love. The night deepened into a velvet blue, and the celestial garden began to fade, not vanish, but dissolve gently into ripples of light. Beneath their feet, the ground turned to flowing water. The sound of it was soft and endless, like a lullaby hummed by the earth itself. Mumtaz gazed down. The river, she whispered. It's calling us. And indeed, the Yamuna, that ancient witness to empires and emperors, now stretched before them, not as water, but as memory. Her surface shimmered with scenes from ages past, the building of the Taj, the marble slabs arriving by boat, the laughter of artisans, and the first reflection of the dome in her tranquil flow. Shah Jahan stepped closer, feeling the current around his ankles. It was warm, luminous, and alive. You have watched everything, he said softly. The river answered. Her voice was gentle, layered with centuries of whispers. I have carried your love, Shah Jahan. Every drop that touched your marble carried the memory of her name. Every wave that broke against your city whispered your sorrow. Mumtaz knelt by the water, her reflection rippling beside his. Do you remember, she asked, the night we stood by your banks? You promised me the world would know our love. The river's current glowed brighter, revealing that very night, two shadows by the moonlit water, their laughter carried by the wind. "I remember," the river said. "And I have kept your promise. Even when the world changed, I sang your names in my flow." For a moment, silence. The stars leaned closer. The wind stilled. Then, the Yamuna began to rise, her waves forming delicate hands of light. She cradled the images of lovers through time, a poet sketching the dome by lantern glow, a traveler kneeling in awe, a child asking her mother, "Who built this for love?" Every reflection was a ripple in the eternal current of devotion. "You see," the river whispered, "your love did not end with you. It flows through every heart that believes love is sacred." Shah Jahan bowed his head. "And yet, I have wept for centuries, unable to hold her again." The river shimmered with sympathy. "But you do hold her, in every wave, in every echo of her name, in the marble's sigh and the moon's reflection. The world holds you both." Mumtaz touched the surface, and the ripples transformed into stars. For the first time since her passing, her eyes filled with peace instead of longing. Then, she said softly, "Let our love be the water, flowing, never-ending." The river pulsed once, as if nodding, and a silver lotus bloomed between them, floating in the current. Shah Jahan and Mumtaz placed their hands over it, and for a breathless instant, their reflections merged. One light, one soul, two names carried by the same eternal river. The Yamuna whispered her final blessing. "As long as I flow, love will remember you." And with that, the river's light slowly dimmed, leaving only moonlight on water. And the soft sound of eternity breathing. High above the world, the moon hung like a silent sentinel. Its silver light spilling across oceans, forests, and cities. Shah Jahan and Mumtaz floated beside it, luminous and weightless. Their forms barely touching the glowing surface. Mumtaz tilted her head. "Do you think the moon has remembered me?" Shah Jahan smiled. "More than any heart ever could. It watched your first laugh, your first tears, your every glance. It witnessed every moment we shared." The moon stirred, a subtle shimmer moving across her surface, as if acknowledging the weight of centuries. And then, faintly, a whisper. "Mumtaz. I remember your name." The stars twinkled in quiet applause. And the moon began to recount their story. Not with words, but with beams of light, painting fleeting visions across the earth. A young couple in Istanbul saw shadows move like theirs on the pavement. In Kyoto, a poet felt a sudden warmth as he wrote of a love that could outlast time. In Cairo, a mother whispered bedtime stories, the moonlight guiding her words. The moon's beams intertwined with their own light, turning into delicate streams of silver petals. Each petal floated downward, carrying memory and devotion to the far corners of the world. Mumtaz reached out, letting the petals brush her fingers. "Even here," she said, "our love touches others." Shah Jahan nodded. "The moon remembers. And through it, the world remembers. Every gaze upward, every longing heart, it carries our story." They watched as lovers, dreamers, and poets all felt something ineffable. a gentle warmth, a whisper of devotion that transcended time. And above them, the moon pulsed softly, her light a rhythm of memory, reminding all who looked up that love is eternal. That names spoken in devotion are never forgotten. For a moment, the moon brightened, casting a silver glow that seemed to wrap the earth in tenderness. Shah Jahan and Mumtaz drifted together in that radiance, their hands entwined, their hearts glowing. Every night, Mumtaz whispered, "Every lover who looks to the sky will find a piece of us there." "Yes," Shah Jahan said, "and we will watch over them. Our story is written not in stone alone, but in moonlight. In hearts, in every sigh of longing and joy." And as they lingered beneath the pale orb, a soft cascade of silver petals fell across the world, carrying whispers of two names that would live forever. Mumtaz, Shah Jahan. The world below was sleeping, yet awake in quiet ways, hearts stirring, breaths deepening, dreams forming. Shah Jahan and Mumtaz hovered above, glowing faintly, their light intertwining like silk threads. Every movement they made sent ripples of silver across the earth, connecting unseen hearts with invisible bonds. Mumtaz reached out, and a golden thread extended from her fingertips, wrapping gently around a young woman writing a love letter in Paris. Shah Jahan extended his hand, and a silver thread snaked toward a couple in Kyoto, holding hands beneath cherry blossoms. "These threads," Mumtaz said softly, "carry our love to every heart willing to feel it." Each thread shimmered, pulsing with warmth. They passed through oceans and forests, cities and deserts, reaching travelers, poets, mothers, and children. Each connection was invisible, yet unmistakable. A spark of understanding, a memory of tenderness, a whisper of devotion. They watched silently as the threads touched hearts. A violinist paused mid-note, sensing inspiration flow through him. A mother held her child closer, feeling an inexplicable comfort. A young man in a distant town hesitated before leaving a note for his beloved, then did so with newfound courage. Shah Jahan looked at Mumtaz, eyes glimmering. Every act of love, small or grand, strengthens these threads. Every heartbeat adds a stitch to the tapestry of devotion. Mumtaz smiled. "So even though centuries separate us, we are everywhere, in everyone who loves." As dawn began to paint the edges of the world with pale gold, the threads of light shimmered stronger, weaving through skylines, forests, rivers, and oceans. They became a subtle network of warmth connecting souls across continents. It was invisible, yet palpable. And for the first time in centuries, Shah Jahan and Mumtaz felt a sense of completion. Their love had transcended marble, rivers, and even the limits of the sky. It was alive, breathing through every act of tenderness and devotion in the world. They floated together, hands entwined, watching humanity unknowingly feel the touch of their eternal bond. The threads glowed brighter in their presence, a silent testament that true love does not fade. It threads itself through time, connecting hearts, one invisible strand at a time. And the world, vast, unknowing, yet deeply touched, continued to hum with their presence. The night had deepened into a velvet silence, And the threads of light that Shah Jahan and Mumtaz had woven across the world shimmered faintly, pulsing like a heartbeat. All around them, the echoes of love, whispered, felt, imagined, had gathered into a single, immense tapestry of devotion. Mumtaz turned to Shah Jahan, her eyes glowing softly. "Do you feel it?" she asked. "All the love, it's all around us now." He nodded, reaching out to her. Their hands met, and instantly, a radiant wave of light surged outward, touching every thread, every petal, every ripple in rivers, oceans, and hearts. From the Taj Mahal to the moon, from distant cities to silent forests, the world seemed to breathe in unison. Every heartbeat, every sigh, every act of love resonated with theirs. A single, eternal rhythm. The celestial garden reappeared beneath their feet, flowers glowing brighter than ever. The river shimmered beside them, its whispers now harmonizing with the hum of the threads. And the moon above poured silver across all of it, its light intertwining with their souls like the final stitch in a cosmic tapestry. Mumtaz rested her head on Shah Jahan's shoulder. This is more than we dreamed," she whispered. "It is eternal." He smiled, feeling every century, every whispered name, every heartbeat that had ever been touched by love. "Yes," he said. "We are no longer just memories or stories. We are the feeling itself. We are the eternal embrace of every heart that loves." And then, as if the universe itself had taken a deep, gentle breath, Shah Jahan and Mumtaz merged into a single, radiant presence. Not as two, not as marble or shadow, but as pure love made visible, infinite, unbound, and everlasting. Around them, the world shimmered in recognition. A child's laughter, a poet's sigh, a mother's lullaby, all resonating with the eternal light. Every river, every garden, every marble petal hummed softly. Every heart that had ever known longing, devotion, or joy felt a gentle brush of warmth. The touch of the timeless watchers, now fully united. And above, the moon glimmered brighter than ever, reflecting their eternal presence across oceans, mountains, and cities. So that every gaze upward, every silent wish, every whispered prayer, would carry the echo of their love forever. In that eternal embrace, Shah Jahan and Mumtaz became one with the universe. And their story, once a whisper between marble and moonlight, now lived in everything that loves, remembers, and dreams. The dawn stretched slowly across the horizon, brushing earth with pale gold and pink. Even though centuries had passed, even though empires rose and fell, the essence of Shah Jahan and Mumtaz's love had not diminished. In quiet moments, it touched the world, like a faint ripple moving through water. A poet in Florence found herself inspired by an image of the Taj. Her pen moved with a newfound fervor. A painter in Marrakesh began sketching a marble dome, feeling a love she could not name. A child in Agra, walking by the Yamuna, paused and whispered, "I hope someone loves me like that someday." The watchers hovered invisibly, unseen yet present, observing these ripples. Shah Jahan smiled faintly. "Even when humans do not know, our love travels," he said. "It finds those ready to feel it." Mumtaz reached out, touching a small blossom in Florence that glowed faintly under the painter's brush. "This," she said softly, "is how love teaches, silently, invisibly, but always profoundly." And so, they drifted across the world. Through alleys, markets, libraries, and quiet homes. Leaving traces of devotion, tenderness, and courage. In Tokyo, a musician paused mid-note, his heart suddenly swelling with longing and inspiration. In Rio, a young couple smiled at each other, feeling the gentle touch of an unseen blessing. In Cairo, a mother kissed her child goodnight, a warmth in her chest she could not explain. The world was alive with the echoes of love. Threads connecting hearts who would never meet. Yet sharing the same pulse, the same rhythm, the same eternal essence. And high above, Shah Jahan and Mumtaz glowed faintly. Not as figures of marble or shadow, but as light itself. Flowing through every corner of the earth. Reminding all who felt it that love is the truest form of immortality. In a small attic studio in Florence, sunlight spilled through a dusty window. A young painter, Emilia, sat hunched over her canvas, struggling to find inspiration. Her brushes lay idle, her palette dull. She had tried every color, every stroke, but something felt missing. Then, as if carried on the morning light itself, a subtle shimmer brushed across the room. It was not visible at first, only a gentle warmth, a feeling of something tender brushing her heart. Emilia's hand twitched, her brush lifted, and for the first time in months, she painted with certainty. Colors danced differently, soft golds blending into pale silvers, deep blues touched by warmth. She painted a marble dome rising against the sky, yet it was not the Taj Mahal, it was her own vision, infused with the feeling of love she had never known but somehow recognized. The painting seemed alive. Petals appeared on the canvas, glowing faintly as if breathing. Emilia's heart swelled. She did not understand why she was moved to tears, but she felt it. A story older than her life, older than centuries, flowing through her brush. Across the city, others felt the ripple. A passerby paused, glancing at her open window, sensing a strange warmth. A young student walking home felt inspiration tugging at his imagination. Somewhere, a poet smiled, pen in hand, struck by a sudden, fleeting emotion he could not explain. The painter, lost in the moment, did not realize she was not just creating art, she was channeling the legacy of love that had been carried across time by Shah Jahan and Mumtaz. Each stroke of her brush became a thread in the unseen web of devotion weaving through humanity. As the sun rose higher, Emilia stepped back from her canvas. The marble dome on her painting glowed softly in the morning light, as if alive. Her eyes shone with recognition. Something within her had shifted. Love, she whispered to herself, is not something we find. It finds us. And outside, the world went on, unaware yet subtly transformed by the invisible touch of that eternal love, flowing from one heart to another. In a narrow street of Kyoto, as lanterns flickered in the early evening, a young musician named Haruto adjusted his violin. He had played countless times, but tonight something felt different, a subtle, inexplicable stirring in his chest, like a melody waiting to be born. As he drew his bow across the strings, the notes carried an unusual warmth. The air seemed to respond, gentle currents swirling around him, lifting petals from nearby cherry blossoms into graceful arcs. Each note resonated far beyond the street, across rooftops, through open windows, over rivers and forests. As if the music itself was awakening hearts scattered across the world. In Paris, a young woman paused at a cafe, feeling a sudden tug at her memory, a warmth she could not name. In Cairo, a father hummed along unconsciously as he tucked his daughter into bed. A child in Rio closed her eyes as she skipped along the cobblestones, hearing the music in her imagination. Haruto played on, unaware that he was now a conduit for something far greater than skill or inspiration. Each note carried traces of the timeless love of Shah Jahan and Mumtaz. Their devotion woven into the invisible threads connecting all hearts. The street seemed to glow faintly in response, lanterns shimmering as though in silent applause. Petals drifted down, brushing the musicians' shoulders and falling around those who listened. Every soul who encountered the melody felt a subtle shift, a quiet stirring of love and remembrance. By the time the moon rose high, the music had spread across oceans, forests, and cities. The world, for a fleeting moment, seemed in harmony with the heartbeat of eternal devotion. Haruto finally lowered his violin, tears in his eyes. Though he could not explain why he felt both complete and infinitely small. Somewhere above, Shah Jahan and Mumtaz watched, invisible yet profoundly present. Smiling at the quiet ripple their love had created. And in every heart touched by that music, the whisper remained, love travels beyond time, shaping the world in subtle, beautiful ways. In a quiet study in Delhi, an elderly man sat hunched over a stack of letters, some yellowed with age, others freshly written but never sent. He had written them over decades, confessions of love, apologies never voiced, dreams unspoken. For years, they remained tucked away in drawers, never reaching their intended hearts. That night, as the moonlight spilled through his window, a subtle glow brushed over the letters. One by one, they lifted gently into the air, floating like autumn leaves. The air hummed softly as the words themselves began to shimmer, catching fragments of emotion embedded in each phrase. From distant cities to far-off villages, these letters found invisible pathways. A young woman in Istanbul felt warmth as a letter brushed against her mind, carrying courage she hadn't known she possessed. A student in Tokyo smiled, inspired by words that seemed to appear from nowhere, urging him to speak his heart. A mother in Florence, writing her own notes to a child, felt a strange sense of connection, as if her own words were part of a larger story. Shah Jahan and Mumtaz drifted among these floating letters, unseen but fully aware. These words, Mumtaz whispered, they are alive now. Though never sent, they travel across hearts, carrying love forward. Shah Jahan nodded. Every unsent letter, every quiet confession, every hope whispered in solitude. They are all threads in the same tapestry. Our love has taught them how to move, how to reach, even when unseen. The letters glowed brighter, weaving invisible lines across the world, binding hearts in silent devotion. The man in Delhi finally felt a sudden warmth and peace, as though the universe had answered his decades of longing. And far above, the timeless watchers, Shah Jahan and Mumtaz, smiled. Knowing that even the smallest, most hidden acts of love could ripple across time, carrying the essence of their eternal devotion into every life it touched. The night air was still, carrying a soft fragrance of jasmine and cedar. Shah Jahan and Mumtaz hovered invisibly, watching the world below. Their love, though intangible, had found new forms, riding the currents of wind, drifting through open windows, alleyways, and marketplaces. A child in Marrakesh ran barefoot through the streets, giggling as the wind tousled her hair. Unseen, a faint echo of Shah Jahan and Mumtaz's laughter brushed her ears, filling her heart with warmth and curiosity. A violinist in Venice paused mid-note as a subtle breeze carried inspiration through the air, guiding his melody. A lover in Kyoto, standing under blooming cherry trees, felt the wind caress their cheek in the shape of a gentle embrace. Mumtaz reached out, letting her fingers glide through the currents of air. Even something as simple as wind can carry love, she whispered. Shah Jahan nodded, watching as invisible threads shimmered within the gusts, connecting hearts in ways no one could see. The wind flowed through mountains, across oceans, through city streets and quiet villages. It carried whispers of devotion, a mother humming a lullaby, a poet reading a forgotten line aloud, a young couple sharing a stolen smile. Every sound, every sigh, every gentle brush of air carried traces of their eternal love, weaving unseen bonds between strangers and friends alike. From the deserts of Arabia to the frozen tundras of the north, the whispers traveled, subtle yet persistent. Each heart that felt them, even unknowingly, carried forward a piece of that timeless devotion. Shah Jahan smiled, taking Mumtaz's hand. Our love, he said, is no longer ours alone. It moves in the smallest gestures, the quietest moments, and the spaces between people. It is everywhere. Mumtaz nodded, watching as the wind shimmered faintly around children, artists, and lovers, leaving golden traces behind. And for a fleeting moment, the world itself seemed to breathe in unison with their love. A silent, eternal rhythm only the heart could feel. Across the world, in quiet homes and temples, tiny flames flickered. Candles lit by hands in prayer, by lovers remembering, by children imagining, each carried an invisible spark of devotion. In a small chapel in Venice, a woman lit a candle for a lost love. The flame wavered gently, then glowed brighter, as though touched by something unseen. Thousands of miles away, a child in Agra lit a birthday candle for a friend who had moved far away. And the flame shimmered, carrying warmth across continents. Shah Jahan and Mumtaz drifted among these lights, invisible yet present. Feeling the resonance of devotion in every flicker. See how even the smallest acts remember love, Mumtaz whispered. Shah Jahan nodded. Every heart that remembers contributes to the eternal flame. The candles multiplied, not by fire, but by influence. Each light touched another, a student in Cairo, a poet in Kyoto, a musician in Paris. And suddenly, across the world, countless tiny flames pulsed in unison. The flames seemed to form shapes, a floating marble dome, a garden in bloom, threads of golden light connecting people. Each candle carried not just memory, but hope, courage, and the gentle whisper of eternal love. In a quiet room in Florence, a young girl watched her candle flicker. She didn't understand why her heart felt warm, why tears pricked her eyes. But somewhere in the invisible threads of devotion, she felt a connection to centuries past. To two hearts that had loved so deeply, their devotion now guiding countless others. Shah Jahan smiled. Love persists, Mumtaz. Even when unseen, it grows in the hearts of those who remember. Mumtaz touched one of the floating flames. And every time someone lights a candle, our love blooms again. The air was filled with a quiet glow, hundreds of thousands of tiny flames. Each one a beacon, a story, a silent tribute to the power of devotion. And in the collective warmth, the world felt subtly, almost imperceptibly, more connected. Held together by threads of memory and love that never faded. Across the world, hearts began to bloom. Not literal gardens, but gardens of feeling, a tender, invisible landscape planted by love, devotion, and remembrance. In a quiet apartment in Paris, a woman paused while watering her potted plants. For a brief moment, her heart felt unusually full, as if each leaf and petal carried an unseen warmth. In Kyoto, a boy playing in a small park suddenly noticed the sunlight glinting on the flowers and felt a wave of calm and joy, inexplicable but undeniable. Across oceans, in Cairo, a mother looked at her child sleeping and felt a profound sense of connection to generations past. Shah Jahan and Mumtaz drifted among these hearts, observing the invisible gardens taking root. This, Mumtaz whispered, is the legacy of all love, all care, all remembrance. Each heart is its own garden, watered by memory and devotion. Shah Jahan nodded. And together, they form a forest. Each act of kindness, each whisper of love, each flicker of hope, it grows into something eternal. In each garden, the same subtle signs appeared. A gentle glow around flowers, petals drifting in rhythm with heartbeats, tiny lights flickering like distant stars. Even when unseen, the influence of love spread quietly, binding people to one another through subtle gestures and emotional echoes. The watchers noticed the gardens intertwining. Threads of light extended from one heart to another, a painter's inspiration linking to a musician's melody, a child's laughter joining a mother's quiet prayer. Every emotion, every memory of love, became a living part of this vast, invisible landscape. Mumtaz touched one glowing flower. "We planted this long ago," she said. "And now it grows in ways we could never imagine. In hearts we may never meet, in lives we may never touch directly." Shah Jahan smiled, seeing countless tiny gardens shimmering beneath the moonlight of human hearts. "It is proof," he said, "that love never ends. It blooms quietly, invisibly, yet infinitely. It is eternal." And for a moment, across the world, humanity unknowingly stood surrounded by this invisible forest. A garden of every heart, nurtured by centuries of devotion, and watched over by two souls whose love had transcended marble, rivers, and time itself. The world seemed to pause, though no one noticed. From every corner of the earth, the echoes of love, letters, whispers, music, candles, and invisible gardens, began to merge. Each act of devotion, each tender gesture, each memory of love pulsed like a note in a grand, unseen symphony. Shah Jahan and Mumtaz hovered above it all, unseen but profoundly aware. "The world itself is singing now," Mumtaz whispered. Shah Jahan nodded, listening to the hum of countless hearts vibrating in harmony. "It is the song of eternity," he said. "Every act of love, no matter how small, contributes to this melody. From a child's laughter in Rio to a violinist's note in Kyoto. From a poet's quiet line in Paris to a mother's prayer in Cairo. The symphony grew stronger, weaving golden and silver threads through the air, binding hearts, cities, and continents in an invisible, tender harmony. Petals rose from unseen gardens, floating gently into the night sky. Candles flickered in rhythm with the music of hearts. And the moonlight itself seemed to pulse with the beat of devotion. In a quiet home, a painter paused mid-stroke, sensing her work part of something larger. In a bustling city, strangers smiled unknowingly at one another, subtly affected by the unseen harmony. And in all these moments, the symphony played on, eternal, invisible, and uniting every soul that had ever known love. Shah Jahan reached for Mumtaz's hand. "This," he said softly, "is our legacy. Not just the marble, the river, the moon, or the garden. But every act of love, every memory, every heartbeat connected across time and space. It is eternal, and it will never fade." Mumtaz smiled, her eyes glimmering. "Then let it play forever, in every heart willing to hear." And so, the eternal symphony continued. A cosmic, timeless melody of devotion, echoing through humanity. Carried in whispers, music, candles, letters, gardens, and every heartbeat. It was the ultimate testament: love, once true, never dies, it becomes part of the universe itself. Beneath the silver moon, the Yamuna shimmered like liquid glass. Shah Jahan and Mumtaz floated above its waters, invisible yet profoundly present. "This river," Mumtaz whispered, "has carried so many of our memories, yet it feels alive with new ones too." Shah Jahan nodded. "Time cannot erase love, it only folds it into new forms. Every joy, every sorrow, every whispered promise travels along its current, touching hearts we may never see." The river itself seemed to respond, glowing faintly, reflecting centuries of devotion. Along its banks, travelers paused, unaware of the magic. A young couple holding hands felt an inexplicable warmth. A poet paused midline, sensing inspiration rising like a tide. And children skipping stones sensed a subtle rhythm beneath their laughter. The river carried every memory of Shah Jahan and Mumtaz. Not as a story frozen in marble, but as a living, breathing force. It rippled across cities, forests, and oceans, threading human hearts into a tapestry of devotion. Mumtaz leaned closer. "It is as if every heartbeat, every act of love, has returned to us in this river." Shah Jahan smiled, taking her hand. "And through it, love flows endlessly. It touches all, even those who have never known our names." The river glimmered brighter, reflecting stars and moonlight. As if acknowledging the timeless reunion of two souls whose love had shaped centuries. High above the world, time seemed to fold in upon itself. Shah Jahan and Mumtaz floated, their forms glowing softly. No longer bound by marble, rivers, or mortal life. "This is the moment," Mumtaz whispered, eyes shining. "After centuries, we reunite, not just in memory, but as part of everything." Shah Jahan nodded. "We have left traces everywhere, in hearts, music, art, whispers, and prayers. Now we merge into the flow of time itself, eternal and unbroken." Slowly, their light intertwined, golden and silver threads weaving together. The river of memories below shimmered, reflecting their glow as petals, letters, and musical notes rose into the sky. Every act of love they had influenced across centuries pulsed in rhythm with them, forming a vast, invisible constellation. Through cities, forests, and oceans, people paused in subtle awareness. A poet in Venice felt a sudden inspiration to write. A child in Cairo smiled at a stranger, feeling inexplicable joy. And a couple in Kyoto held hands a moment longer, sensing an unseen blessing. Their presence was no longer literal, but woven into the very essence of the world. Every heartbeat, every sigh, every act of devotion became a part of their eternal unity. Mumtaz leaned into Shah Jahan's glow. "We are everywhere," she whispered. "In every heart touched by love, in every story carried across generations." Shah Jahan smiled. "And through time, we will be remembered. Not as statues or monuments, but as the feeling that inspires, comforts, and connects." The stars above shone brighter, reflecting the eternal union of two souls whose love had transcended mortality. Below, the earth pulsed softly, carrying whispers of devotion through the night. And everywhere, unseen yet deeply felt, love became timeless, infinite, and unbreakable. Time moved forward, yet some things never changed. Shah Jahan and Mumtaz, now merged with the essence of eternity, drifted through history unseen. Their love whispering into the lives of those ready to feel it. In a small village in Rajasthan, a child painted a marble dome in the dirt, unaware why her heart swelled with warmth. In New York, a young composer paused mid-note, suddenly inspired by a melody that seemed older than time itself. In Kyoto, a couple laughed beneath cherry blossoms, feeling an inexplicable joy binding them together. Each act of creativity, kindness, or love was a reflection of the eternal threads woven by the timeless watchers. Letters, music, laughter, candlelight, and blossoms continued to ripple through human hearts, shaping the world subtly, quietly, but profoundly. Mumtaz spoke softly to Shah Jahan, "Even though centuries pass, this is how our story lives on. Not as a memory frozen in marble, but as life itself." Shah Jahan smiled. "And every person touched by love carries our legacy forward. Every heart we inspire becomes a beacon, another thread in the tapestry we began so long ago." The world seemed brighter, gentler, filled with tiny, unseen gestures. A stranger helping another, a child comforting a friend, an artist creating in sudden clarity. All of it, faint yet undeniable, traced back to the invisible presence of two souls whose love had become timeless. And high above, the watchers felt a quiet satisfaction. Through centuries, wars, empires, and change, love remained constant, flowing through hearts, art, and the world itself. Their devotion had become immortal, alive in every smile, every melody, every whisper of care. The earth, in its vastness, pulsed with the quiet rhythm of this eternal love, reminding every soul that even the smallest act of kindness or love is part of something infinitely greater. Across centuries, subtle traces of Shah Jahan and Mumtaz's love threaded through the world, often unnoticed, yet profoundly shaping lives. In a small library in Florence, a young scholar discovered an old, forgotten manuscript filled with sketches of domes and gardens. As he traced the lines with his fingers, a quiet warmth filled his chest. He didn't know why, but his heart recognized the devotion captured in the ink. Thousands of miles away, in a coastal town in Japan, a grandmother told her granddaughter a story about a timeless love that inspired courage and hope. The little girl listened wide-eyed, carrying the story with her as if it had been a part of her own heart all along. In Cairo, an architect paused while designing a building, inspired by shapes and curves he had never studied before. Every stroke of his pencil seemed to carry a whisper of centuries-old devotion, shaping beauty in ways unseen but deeply felt. Mumtaz's voice floated softly in the invisible currents of time. See, Shah Jahan, love is never lost. It moves quietly, gently, waiting for hearts willing to listen. Shah Jahan nodded, observing as the threads of light and emotion extended from one generation to the next. Even those who never knew us, never visited the marble, carry our love in subtle ways. Through art, music, compassion, and stories passed down. Across continents, these whispers manifested in endless forms. A poet reciting a verse inspired by love long gone, a young couple unknowingly mirroring devotion they never learned. A child comforting a friend with the purest care, reflecting centuries of influence. The world pulsed with an invisible rhythm, hearts connected by devotion, acts of kindness, and memory. Shah Jahan and Mumtaz, entwined in eternal light, watched with quiet joy. Our love, Shah Jahan said, is in every heartbeat, every story, every act of courage and compassion. It travels not in grand gestures alone, but in the quiet moments that shape lives across generations. Mumtaz smiled, watching the threads shimmer in golden and silver light, stretching from past to present, weaving the eternal tapestry of love. And it will continue, she whispered, forever. In quiet, ordinary moments, the influence of Shah Jahan and Mumtaz's love became most profound. A young woman in Istanbul paused by a fountain, watching water ripple in the sunlight. She thought of her own family, her friends, and even strangers she had helped. Without realizing it, she felt a wave of gratitude and love, a gentle echo of devotion centuries old. In a bustling market in Marrakesh, a man handed a stranger a bag he could not afford to give. The stranger's eyes lit up with warmth, and though neither knew why, both felt connected, part of something bigger. Across oceans, a child in Rio hugged a stray dog, feeling a joy so pure it seemed to transcend time. And somewhere in Florence, an artist painted not what she saw, but what she felt, a melody of love flowing silently through her heart. Mumtaz whispered softly to Shah Jahan, "Look how love reflects in hearts. It doesn't need monuments or grand gestures, it appears in the smallest, most human ways." Shah Jahan nodded. Every smile, every kind word, every act of courage or tenderness is a reflection of what we began. Our devotion lives in the hearts of those who carry it forward. Even in sorrow, the reflections appeared. A poet writing after loss found comfort in words he did not understand. A mother comforting her child realized her care was stronger than fear. A musician paused mid-performance, inspired to create beauty out of struggle. And through all these moments, the golden and silver threads of eternal love shimmered invisibly, linking human hearts across time, space, and circumstance. For Shah Jahan and Mumtaz, the beauty of it was simple. Love, once true, leaves a reflection that never fades. It lives in ordinary moments, in human hearts, and in the quiet courage to feel deeply. And across the world, in ways no one could measure, humanity reflected their devotion. A mirror of eternal love shining softly through every heartbeat. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the world began to respond to the echoes of Shah Jahan and Mumtaz's eternal love. In bustling cities, strangers lingered in quiet acts of kindness. A commuter offered a seat to an elderly person, a child shared her snack, a musician played for no audience but the joy of sound. In forests and fields, travelers paused to appreciate the beauty around them, feeling an unexplainable connection to life itself. Even oceans seemed calmer, reflecting the moonlight in gentle waves that carried whispers of devotion to distant shores. Mumtaz smiled, her light drifting across the continents. Look, Shah Jahan, they are awakening. They feel it, even if they do not understand. Shah Jahan's eyes glimmered. Yes. The threads we've woven across centuries, through hearts, music, art, and memories, are now converging. The world itself is beginning to hum with love. In a village in India, a young girl planted a tree for her community. In Paris, an elderly couple held hands as they walked through a quiet park. In Cairo, a poet published a book filled with stories of compassion and devotion, inspired by a dream he could not explain. Across continents, golden and silver threads shimmered invisibly, connecting millions of hearts. It was no longer a subtle reflection in small moments, it was a collective awakening, a shared understanding that love, in its truest form, was eternal. The sky seemed to pulse softly in response, moonlight and starlight dancing in rhythm with human hearts. Shah Jahan reached for Mumtaz's hand. Our love has grown beyond us, he said. It now lives in the world itself, shaping the way humans connect, feel, and create. Mumtaz's voice was like a soft wind over oceans and cities. Every act of care, every smile, every note of music, every story passed down, they are all part of this awakening. It is the heartbeat of humanity, aligned with the love we have carried for centuries. And as the world slept under the moonlight, it pulsed gently with the invisible, timeless rhythm of devotion. A quiet yet powerful symphony of love, awakening hearts across the globe. Time no longer held boundaries. Past, present, and future flowed together, united by the invisible presence of Shah Jahan and Mumtaz. From the streets of Delhi to the gardens of Kyoto, from quiet libraries in Florence to bustling markets in Marrakesh, their love was everywhere. Not as marble, nor as a story frozen in history, but as a living, breathing force shaping hearts, inspiring courage, and nurturing compassion. Mumtaz looked at Shah Jahan, her light intertwining with his. Our love, she whispered, is no longer ours alone. It exists wherever hearts are moved by devotion, creativity, or care. Shah Jahan nodded, watching as golden and silver threads extended endlessly, connecting souls across oceans, deserts, forests, and mountains. Every heartbeat carries a fragment of our story. Every act of kindness, every note of music, every gentle word is part of us now. In Paris, a young musician played a melody he didn't know he remembered. In Rio, a child's laughter reflected centuries of unseen devotion. And in Cairo, a poet's words glowed with inspiration, touched by invisible hands. The world itself seemed to breathe in harmony with their love. Rivers sparkled brighter, winds carried whispers of joy, blossoms bloomed more vibrantly. And the night sky shimmered with faint trails of golden and silver light. Shah Jahan and Mumtaz realized that they had transcended human understanding. They were no longer simply two souls in love. They were eternal, inseparable, a force woven into the very essence of life, memory, and devotion. Forever, Mumtaz whispered. Yes, Shah Jahan replied. Through every heart, every generation, every story, we are eternal. And so, their love continued, beyond time, beyond space. Alive in every heart willing to feel, in every act of care, in every creation inspired by devotion. It was infinite, unbreakable, and beautiful, a love beyond time itself. The world had changed subtly, yet profoundly. Every act of kindness, every note of music, every whisper of devotion carried the eternal imprint of Shah Jahan and Mumtaz. From the smallest village to the largest city, people unknowingly participated in the legacy of love. A young girl in Agra planted a tree for someone she had never met, inspired by a feeling she could not explain. In New York, a composer finished a symphony that seemed older than time, echoing emotions felt centuries before. In Cairo, a poet's words traveled far beyond their origin, connecting strangers with empathy, hope, and care. Mumtaz smiled, drifting beside Shah Jahan. See how love continues to move through the world, she said. It grows, it adapts, and it touches every heart willing to receive it. Shah Jahan nodded. Our story is not only remembered, it lives in the very essence of human experience. It is reflected in art, in music, in laughter, and even in tears. It is infinite, because it exists wherever love is present. Across continents, faint golden and silver threads shimmered invisibly, linking generations, cultures, and souls. Every heart touched became part of an endless network, a tapestry of devotion that could never fade. Even the night sky seemed to honor their legacy. Stars twinkled in rhythm, rivers glimmered with reflected light, winds carried invisible songs, and blossoms glowed with quiet beauty. Shah Jahan and Mumtaz looked at each other, knowing their mission was complete. Their love had transcended mortality, history, and even time itself. It had become eternal, alive in every human heart, every act of care, and every story passed down. And in the silence of the night, across the world and through the ages, the whisper remained. Love, once true, never dies. It grows, it inspires, and it becomes the infinite legacy of the heart. Night fell softly across the world, and as people drifted into sleep, the unseen influence of Shah Jahan and Mumtaz began to stir in the realm of dreams. A young girl in Agra dreamt of a marble palace floating on a river of light. She could not explain why her heart ached with longing and joy at the same time, but the warmth she felt was unmistakable. A boy in Paris dreamed of petals falling from the sky, forming intricate patterns that seemed to tell a story older than time itself. In Cairo, an elderly musician dreamed of a melody he had never heard before, yet it felt deeply familiar, as if it belonged to his soul. Mumtaz whispered through these dreams, her voice soft as the wind. Let them feel love, hope, and inspiration, even if they do not understand why. Shah Jahan nodded, his light weaving through the threads of imagination. Dreams are where the heart remembers. Here, we can touch people across time and space, planting seeds of devotion and courage. In these dreams, ordinary objects became symbols of love. A candle flickering in a window reminded a young poet of devotion. A blooming rose inspired a painter to create a masterpiece. A gentle river guided a child to acts of kindness without knowing why. Even nightmares were softened by their presence, turning fear into courage, loneliness into hope, and despair into determination. Each dream carried whispers of the eternal love they shared, a silent legacy nurturing hearts in ways unseen yet deeply felt. By morning, the dreamers awoke with inexplicable warmth, inspiration, or compassion. They could not name the source, but their lives were subtly changed. Across continents, generations, and cultures, the influence of two immortal souls moved quietly yet powerfully through the human heart. Mumtaz turned to Shah Jahan. Every dream, every silent hope, is part of our story now. Shah Jahan smiled, watching the first light of dawn touch the world. Our love lives in the imagination of humanity, and from there, it touches every life it can reach. Even when unnoticed, love leaves traces, invisible threads connecting hearts across time, space, and circumstance. In a quiet room in Kyoto, a musician paused mid-note, sensing a melody that seemed to come from nowhere. Across the ocean in Florence, a painter's brush moved with unexpected grace, forming shapes that reflected emotions they had never consciously felt. In a village in India, a child offered a flower to a stranger, unaware that the simple gesture rippled far beyond the moment. Shah Jahan and Mumtaz watched from the invisible realms, their light weaving delicate threads between souls. These threads, Mumtaz whispered, connect those who will act on love, kindness, and inspiration, even if they do not know why. Shah Jahan nodded. They are everywhere, linking strangers, generations, and continents. Through them, love flows quietly, shaping destinies, art, and human connection. The threads were subtle, almost imperceptible, but their influence was undeniable. A poet in Cairo wrote a line of verse inspired by an unseen presence. A young couple in Paris felt inexplicable closeness, drawn together by invisible bonds. A student in Rio solved a problem creatively, guided by a fleeting intuition that seemed larger than themselves. The invisible threads formed a web of devotion, love, and inspiration. Each act, each choice, and each heartbeat strengthened the weave. Even disasters and hardships were touched, softened, guided, or illuminated by the gentle influence flowing unseen. Mumtaz reached out to a glowing thread. See, Shah Jahan, even those who do not know us are part of this tapestry. Shah Jahan smiled. Every thread carries a fragment of our love, and together they form a network that will never fade. This is the true measure of eternity, not marble, not monuments, but connections that transcend time. And so, across the world, through acts large and small, the invisible threads pulsed with golden and silver light, binding humanity in a web of unseen devotion, inspiration, and eternal love. Across centuries, art became one of the purest channels for Shah Jahan and Mumtaz's eternal love. In Florence, a painter stood before a blank canvas, unsure what to create. As she closed her eyes, golden and silver light seemed to flow from her heart into her brush. Without conscious thought, the painting emerged, a vision of love, devotion, and timeless beauty that felt both ancient and eternal. In Kyoto, a calligrapher traced ink across paper, inspired by a sudden clarity. Each stroke seemed to carry whispers of distant petals, moonlight, and soft melodies, echoes of love that had traveled centuries to reach her hand. In Paris, a sculptor carved delicate shapes, unaware that the marble seemed to guide him, forming arcs and curves imbued with devotion and tenderness. Even the smallest details, a petal, a wave, a reflection of light, carried traces of a story older than he could know. Shah Jahan and Mumtaz observed silently. "Art is the mirror of the soul," Mumtaz said softly. "And through it, our love touches hearts we may never meet." Shah Jahan smiled. Each creation, whether seen by many or few, carries a fragment of devotion, an imprint of our journey. Through these reflections, love becomes immortal. In distant lands, the influence continued. A poet's words evoked the warmth of tender devotion. A musician's melody reminded listeners of unseen care. And a dancer's movements expressed love without language. Every painting, every song, every sculpture became a bridge across time. A subtle reminder that love, when true, transcends the constraints of life, culture, and history. Even generations unaware of Shah Jahan and Mumtaz could feel the resonance. A quiet inspiration, a sudden smile, a flicker of hope, all reflections of eternal devotion captured in the heart of human creativity. Mumtaz whispered, "Through art, we live again and again." Shah Jahan nodded. "And the world will always remember, even if it does not know why." From whispered notes in quiet rooms to grand symphonies filling concert halls, music carried the unseen presence of Shah Jahan and Mumtaz across time and space. In Vienna, a young violinist paused mid-performance, hearing a melody she had never composed but instinctively knew. In Rio, a street drummer's rhythm aligned perfectly with the heartbeat of the city, sending waves of joy to those passing by. In Cairo, a singer's soft voice lifted in harmony with a tune that seemed older than memory itself. Mumtaz's voice floated gently through the invisible threads connecting the musicians. "Music is a bridge," she whispered. "It speaks when words cannot, carrying devotion, hope, and love across generations." Shah Jahan observed, his light intertwining with each note. "Through music, we touch hearts directly. A single melody can awaken memories, inspire courage, or soothe the deepest sorrow." In quiet bedrooms, concert halls, and open streets alike, golden and silver threads of light danced with every note. A child humming a tune in India unknowingly carried centuries of devotion. A composer in Paris wrote a melody inspired by a dream, unknowingly echoing the eternal symphony of Shah Jahan and Mumtaz. Even instruments themselves seemed to respond, piano keys glowing faintly, strings vibrating in harmony, flutes carrying unseen petals of light. Through music, love transcended barriers, culture, language, distance, and time. Every melody, no matter how small, became a vessel of eternal connection, a reflection of devotion that could never fade. Mumtaz smiled at Shah Jahan. They will remember us through their hearts, through these notes, forever. Shah Jahan nodded. And through each song, our love travels further, touching lives we may never see, yet shaping the world. And so, across continents and centuries, the eternal melody played on. A symphony of love invisible to the eyes, but deeply felt by every soul attuned to the heart. Love, once true, travels not only through hearts but also through the words and tales humans pass down. In a quiet village in Japan, a grandmother told her granddaughter a story about a timeless love that survived centuries. The girl listened, enraptured, sensing warmth and hope she could not explain. In Spain, a young boy read an old folktale about devotion and courage, feeling inspiration surge through him as if the story were written just for him. In Cairo, a poet's manuscript, centuries old, resurfaced, the words echoing love and loyalty that transcended life itself. Mumtaz's light gently touched each story. Every word, every line, every whispered tale carries a fragment of us, she said. Through stories, love becomes immortal, teaching, inspiring, and connecting hearts across generations. Shah Jahan nodded, watching as golden and silver threads wove through libraries, homes, and marketplaces. Even when the storytellers forget us, our love remains in the lessons, in the feelings, in the quiet understanding passed from one person to another. Children in distant lands unknowingly mirrored their devotion in acts of kindness. Writers, inspired by fleeting memories, created works that captured love's essence. Every legend, fable, and poem carried the invisible pulse of the eternal lovers. The influence of Shah Jahan and Mumtaz was subtle yet profound. Even in moments of fear, despair, or doubt, stories illuminated hope, courage, and devotion. Through narratives, the human heart remembered the truth: love, when genuine, never dies. Mumtaz turned to Shah Jahan. Through stories, we touch countless lives we will never meet. Our love is spoken, heard, and felt again and again. Shah Jahan smiled. And it will continue to ripple through generations, a living echo of devotion that no time can erase. Across the world, in quiet whispers and loud tales alike, the eternal love of two souls reached every heart willing to listen. In countless hearts, inspiration stirred quietly, guided by the invisible presence of Shah Jahan and Mumtaz. A young inventor in Cairo paused mid-creation, struck by an idea that seemed to come from nowhere. A poet in Paris felt words flow effortlessly, as if centuries of devotion whispered through his pen. In Agra, a child drew intricate patterns in the sand, unaware that the designs reflected centuries of love and care. Mumtaz's soft voice carried across these moments. Every spark of creativity, every act of courage, every moment of kindness is touched by our love, she said. It flows through the world like sunlight, unseen but undeniable. Shah Jahan nodded, watching golden and silver threads pulse and intertwine, connecting moments, people, and ideas. Even when they do not know us, their inspiration is our legacy, he said. It moves beyond monuments or memory, it becomes a living force in the hearts of humanity. In distant lands, the influence spread further. A musician created a melody that healed sorrow. An artist painted visions of hope on canvases that would inspire generations. A teacher in a small village encouraged a student to pursue a dream they could not yet see. Every act of inspiration, no matter how small, became a thread in the infinite tapestry of devotion. Through each spark, Shah Jahan and Mumtaz's love reached new hearts, shaping the world in subtle, profound ways. Mumtaz smiled at Shah Jahan. Through inspiration, we live anew in every soul willing to feel, create, or care. Shah Jahan's light intertwined with hers. And this force will never end, it is eternal, just like our love. And across the world, unseen yet deeply felt, the light of inspiration continued to ripple. A quiet but powerful testament to the enduring influence of devotion, hope, and eternal love. Slowly, imperceptibly, the world began to move in quiet harmony. The invisible influence of Shah Jahan and Mumtaz wove through humanity, guiding hearts, actions, and choices in subtle, synchronistic ways. In Venice, gondoliers hummed melodies that perfectly matched the rhythm of the canals. In New Delhi, a teacher's encouragement inspired an entire classroom to collaborate creatively, each child building on the other's ideas seamlessly. In Kyoto, a community garden flourished as neighbors unknowingly coordinated acts of care, planting, watering, and tending in a silent, shared rhythm. Mumtaz's light flowed through every heartbeat. See, Shah Jahan, the world responds when love moves through it, she whispered. Even without knowing why, people align when guided by devotion and compassion. Shah Jahan nodded, observing the subtle dance of life. Every gesture, every choice, no matter how small, resonates. When countless hearts act from love, the rhythm of humanity itself begins to hum in harmony. Even moments of conflict softened under this influence. Disagreements transformed into understanding, competition into cooperation, loneliness into connection. Golden and silver threads shimmered invisibly, linking souls, guiding choices, and inspiring unity. Across continents, millions of lives synchronized in gentle patterns. A musician improvising in Cairo echoing a composer in Paris. A child planting a tree in India unknowingly mirroring someone in Brazil. A storyteller in Japan inspiring hope that rippled across oceans. Mumtaz smiled at Shah Jahan. The world is alive with the rhythm of our love. It moves like a quiet symphony through every heart, every soul, every life. Shah Jahan's eyes glimmered. This is our legacy, not frozen in marble, but alive in the pulse of humanity. A world forever aligned with the invisible force of devotion, compassion, and eternal love. And so, across the earth, in ways both small and profound, humanity moved as one. Connected by invisible threads of love, guidance, and inspiration flowing from two timeless hearts. From their ethereal realm, Shah Jahan and Mumtaz observed the world with quiet joy. Every heartbeat, every act of kindness, every inspired thought was a testament to the love they had shared, a love that now lived in countless souls across time and space. Children laughed in streets they had never seen, artists created visions they did not understand, and strangers acted with unexpected generosity. All of it shimmered faintly with golden and silver threads, the invisible echo of devotion that connected the world in ways no one could fully see. Mumtaz looked at Shah Jahan, her light intertwining with his. "Even now, we are not absent," she whispered. "We are present in every pulse of inspiration, every whisper of courage, every gesture of love." Shah Jahan smiled. "We are eternal watchers, yes, not separate from the world, but woven into it. Our devotion is reflected in humanity itself, in the small acts and quiet moments that ripple endlessly. In distant lands, dreamers awoke with hope, musicians found melodies, and artists captured beauty their minds had never imagined. Even the natural world seemed touched, rivers sparkled with an unseen glow, winds carried a subtle harmony, and blossoms opened as if acknowledging the presence of love." Mumtaz reached out, brushing a golden thread over a young girl in Agra planting a tree. "Through this, our love continues to grow, silently, invisibly, yet profoundly." Shah Jahan nodded, watching a poet in Cairo write words that would inspire generations. "Every soul touched, every life influenced, becomes part of our eternal story. We are not just remembered, we are alive in the pulse of humanity itself." And so, Shah Jahan and Mumtaz remained the eternal watchers. Present in dreams, in creativity, in kindness, and in love. Their devotion had transcended time, space, and even mortality, living on forever in the hearts and actions of those who carry love into the world. Their gaze was not possessive, nor demanding, it was gentle, infinite, and full of quiet pride. For in every heartbeat, every whisper of compassion, their love continued its endless journey, shaping the world, and inspiring eternity. Centuries had passed, yet Shah Jahan and Mumtaz's love remained as luminous as the day it was born. From their ethereal realm, they observed the world, a tapestry of lives subtly touched by their devotion, creativity, and care. Mumtaz turned to Shah Jahan, her light shimmering softly. "Look at all they have become, every act of kindness, every creation, every moment of hope, it carries a piece of us," she whispered. Shah Jahan smiled, his eyes reflecting the golden thread stretching across continents and generations. "It is not marble, monuments, or history books that define our love," he said. "It is the living pulse within humanity, invisible, yet undeniable." The world below was a quiet symphony of devotion. A child offered comfort to a friend in need, a musician played a melody inspired by a dream, an artist captured beauty beyond words. Even the elements seemed to resonate, rivers glimmered, winds carried subtle melodies, and blossoms opened as if acknowledging the eternal presence of love. Mumtaz extended her hand, letting it glow over the threads connecting all life. "Every heartbeat, every gentle thought, every act of courage, they remember us," she said. "And through them, our love continues, even as we prepare for the final embrace." Shah Jahan nodded, feeling a serene completeness. Let this last whisper of our story merge with the universe. Let it flow in every heart willing to feel, in every life willing to love. And so, they whispered together, a soft, radiant echo carried across time, space, and existence itself. Love is eternal. Love endures. Love transforms. In that quiet moment, they felt the culmination of centuries. A perfect, unbroken circle of devotion, inspiration, and connection. The whisper was not an ending, but a bridge, a gentle transition into the ultimate journey of unity with the infinite. Their love was now no longer just theirs. It had become a universal pulse, woven into the very fabric of life, memory, and imagination. The last whisper carried not sorrow or longing, but joy, fulfillment, and peace, a gentle promise that true love never ends. As the first light of a new dawn touched the earth, the influence of Shah Jahan and Mumtaz remained everywhere, quiet, subtle, yet profoundly powerful. Across continents, people moved in gentle harmony. A teacher encouraged a shy child to speak. A gardener planted trees that would shade generations. A musician played melodies that resonated with hearts far away. Even in the smallest moments, their love whispered. In the laughter of children, in the shared glance of strangers, in acts of care that seemed ordinary but carried extraordinary warmth. Mumtaz observed, her light drifting over the world. See, Shah Jahan, they remember us in ways beyond monuments or history books, she said. Every heart that feels love, every hand that reaches to help, every mind inspired, this is how the world remembers. Shah Jahan's gaze swept across cities, forests, oceans, and deserts. Humanity carries our legacy, he said. Not through marble or paintings alone, but through living acts, through memories that do not fade, through inspiration that travels from heart to heart. In villages, towns, and metropolises, golden and silver threads shimmered invisibly, connecting souls through empathy, art, kindness, and courage. Even as new generations arose, unaware of the original story, the impact of their love continued, subtle, infinite, eternal. Mumtaz's voice was soft as a breeze. Our love is no longer only ours. It exists wherever humanity chooses to feel, create, or care. It is alive, everywhere and always. Shah Jahan extended his hand, letting the invisible threads glow brightly one last time. The world remembers us, he said. And through it, love will never end. In this moment, the earth itself seemed to sigh in quiet recognition. A world alive with the enduring essence of devotion, inspiration, and timeless love. At the edge of eternity, Shah Jahan and Mumtaz felt a profound shift. The golden and silver threads of love, devotion, and inspiration they had woven through humanity now pulsed with a unified rhythm, resonating with the heartbeat of the universe itself. Mumtaz looked at Shah Jahan, her light shimmering brighter than ever. It is time, she whispered softly. To become one with the energy that moves everything, every heart, every star, every whisper of life. Shah Jahan nodded, his form radiant and ethereal. Not an end, but a transformation, he said. Our love will no longer only flow through threads and hearts, it will merge with the universal pulse, inseparable from the essence of life itself. Golden and silver light enveloped them, swirling around like cosmic rivers, touching the earth, oceans, skies, and beyond. The invisible threads connecting humanity glowed more vividly, as if celebrating the union of their devotion with the infinite. Every act of kindness, every melody, every creation, every dream now resonated with their essence. Artists painted with inspiration that seemed older than memory, musicians played melodies that echoed the cosmos, and children laughed with a joy that shimmered like stardust. Mumtaz smiled as she and Shah Jahan's forms began to merge, radiating warmth and serenity. "Our love is no longer ours alone," she said. "It is life itself, present in every heartbeat, every creation, every soul." Shah Jahan's voice was gentle, yet infinite. "Through this light, we are everywhere and nowhere, eternal and free. We are in every act of care, in every spark of imagination, in every ripple of inspiration. Our story becomes the universal song of love itself." And as they merged fully into radiant, boundless light, the universe seemed to hum in harmony. The pulse of love, devotion, and unity flowed freely, unseen but deeply felt. A cosmic symphony echoing through time, space, and existence forever. As Shah Jahan and Mumtaz merged with the universal pulse, their love transcended the boundaries of the human world. It no longer remained bound to earth or time, it traveled through dreams, imagination, memory, and even the unseen corners of existence. In the minds of dreamers across centuries, soft whispers carried the essence of devotion. A poet in Venice wrote lines that seemed older than memory, yet alive with emotion. A child in Kyoto dreamt of floating marble gardens, petals falling in perfect harmony, feeling warmth that belonged to no one but the universe itself. An elderly musician in Cairo discovered melodies that lifted hearts across oceans, unseen yet deeply felt. Mumtaz's voice flowed like a gentle wind. "Our love now touches even the corners of imagination," she whispered. "It inspires courage, creativity, hope, and compassion in ways beyond mortal understanding." Shah Jahan observed, his light weaving through infinite possibilities. "Even in memory, our story lives," he said. "Every human who dreams of love, who creates, who feels deeply, they echo our devotion without knowing it. We exist in their inspiration, their hope, and their understanding of beauty and care." Golden and silver threads shimmered across dimensions, connecting not just people, but ideas, art, dreams, and imagination. Even the natural world, the rivers, stars, forests, and oceans, resonated with a quiet harmony, reflecting the infinite reach of their love. Through these echoes, their devotion became immortal in ways no monument or history book could capture. It flowed, unseen, across the cosmos, touching every heart open to love and every mind open to inspiration. Mumtaz reached for Shah Jahan, her light merging fully with his. "Even as we become part of eternity," she said softly, "our love will continue to whisper, inspire, and guide." Shah Jahan smiled. "The echoes of our devotion will never end. They will ripple endlessly through time, space, imagination, and memory, eternal in every sense of the word. And across every world, every dream, and every creation, the whispers of Shah Jahan and Mumtaz's love continued. Soft, infinite, and deeply transformative, touching everything that could feel, imagine, or remember. At last, the eternal journey of Shah Jahan and Mumtaz reached its sublime culmination. No longer bound by time, place, or form, their souls glowed with a brilliance that intertwined with the essence of existence itself. They hovered above the earth, the golden and silver threads of love, devotion, and inspiration radiating endlessly, connecting every heart, every life, and every dream. Every whisper of kindness, every spark of creativity, every gesture of love carried a piece of them, weaving an infinite tapestry across the universe. Mumtaz turned to Shah Jahan, her light merging completely with his. "This is our final embrace," she said softly. "Not as individuals, but as the essence of love itself, flowing through everything that breathes, dreams, and feels." Shah Jahan's eyes glimmered with serenity and joy. "Our love has become eternal life," he whispered. "Through humanity, through dreams, through inspiration, we are immortal. Every soul that loves, every heart that creates, every mind that imagines, they carry us forward." Across the cosmos, a gentle harmony resonated. Stars twinkled with subtle golden light, rivers shimmered as if reflecting their devotion, and every living creature seemed touched by an unseen, infinite presence. Mumtaz reached out, touching the earth, the oceans, and the skies. "Let this embrace be a promise," she said. "That love is infinite, life is connected, and devotion transcends all boundaries." Shah Jahan's voice joined hers in a soft, eternal chorus. "We are one with all that ever was and ever will be. Through this embrace, love is complete, eternal, and limitless." And in that final moment, their forms dissolved into radiant, boundless light. Merging with the universe, yet present in every heartbeat, every act of kindness, every inspiration, every dream. The world was forever changed, yet unchanged. The whisper of their love remained, invisible to the eye, but eternal in the pulse of life itself. Shah Jahan and Mumtaz no longer belonged to any single time or place. They had become the eternal essence of love, infinite, luminous, and immortal. And so, the story concluded, not with an end, but with the boundless continuation of devotion, inspiration, and eternal love. A final embrace that would last for eternity.